Okay, we are live, everyone. Hold on, my mic's not on. I was so confused why it wasn't working. All right, here we go. And yeah, okay, everything's working. Uh, dude, I meant to stream like 20 minutes ago, but I've been playing around with Streamlabs simply because it decided to change its settings and do things in a very dumb way. So, um, but yeah, we're here now. So today we're talking about Viktor Frankl and what it means to find hope, what it means to find meaning in the worst of circumstances. What's up, Just One Human?
He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how.
Okay. This is really the central idea of Viktor Frankl's philosophy. And before we even get into any other details, understand this. Like, when you have no hope, when you have nothing to live for, then you have nothing. Think of people who don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're very, very, very unlikely to persist. But when you can see that you're only separated by time, when you can see you're only separated by effort, then you understand that if you keep going, then it's just a matter of time. Yeah, well, it's been a good few days of you not here. I've never
In
been
an
happy.
era marked by rapid technological advancements and societal shifts, the quest for meaning has become a central concern for many individuals. This search often manifests in questions about purpose, fulfillment, and direction in life. Viktor Frankl, a distinguished psychiatrist of the 20th century and Holocaust survivor, offers profound insights into this existential dilemma through his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning.
So if you haven't read Man's Search for Meaning, I don't I don't see it around me. Otherwise I'd pull it out. But it's a very short book. It's around like 110 pages, and it really does say something profound. It really does have a lot of insights, and it's one of those books that you read and you're like, man, I have no room to complain. Man, I have no room to say anything because there are people that endured more than I ever thought I could possibly can, and these are just ordinary people. And it's like the bravery and the strength of people that made it through the worst of circumstances will show the undying nature of human will.
Frankl's experiences and psychological theories provide a robust framework for understanding how individuals can discover purpose, even in the most challenging circumstances. In this video, we will explore Frankl's insights on finding meaning in life and offer practical applications of his principles. To fully appreciate Frankl's perspective, it is essential to understand his background. Viktor Frankl was born in 1905 in Vienna, Austria, where he pursued a career in psychiatry and neurology. His life took a dramatic turn during World War II when he was imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, including
So interestingly enough, he moved around to like a few of the worst ones, which is like it's quite a story to tell. It's quite a thing to live and be able to tell that tale. Did I ever tell you my real name? No, please don't.
Auschwitz. Frankl's
Don't like
personal
don't
experience in the
dox
Holocaust
yourself in
profoundly
chat.
shaped
Like
his theories on meaning. His father, mother, brother, and wife all perished in the concentration camps, with only his sister surviving. Enduring the loss of his entire family, every possession, and every value he held dear, Frankl faced unimaginable suffering from hunger, cold, and brutality, constantly living under the threat of extermination.
interestingly enough, like he's honest. He says that like the moments when he was allowed to warm his hands when he was dying of frostbite, the moments when he was allowed to sleep in, the moments when he got a little bit of extra rations, like he savored. And it just goes to show that like even in the worst of circumstances, we can always find something. We can always find a little sliver of hope. It's the idea from Schopenhauer that's very similar. It's the little moments of joy in the vast ocean of suffering that makes the life worth living. Which Frankel's not a pessimist like Schopenhauer, but fairly similar.
Despite these horrific circumstances, he found life worth preserving. A psychiatrist who has confronted such extremity firsthand offers invaluable insights into the human capacity for finding meaning and resilience. This harrowing period profoundly influenced his thinking and led to the development of his existential analysis, which later evolved into logotherapy.
So logotherapy is basically like rethinking your life, re-rationalizing your life. Like I feel like I say this all the time, but we all most of the day spend time worrying about our problems, yet we don't spend the same amount of time thinking about the things that are going right for us, thinking about the blessings we have, thinking about the things that we do have and that we can appreciate in the now. And it's like the moment you start to flip your perspective onto this, the moment your life gets better. Yet so few people do this. And this is really the basis of logotherapy. It's the idea that it's the way you're framing your problems that's making your life so bad. It's the way you're thinking about things. It's the way you're approaching things. It's the way you see things. Like in all honesty, what a psychologist does is it doesn't do anything aside from force you to see your problems differently, force you to conceptualize problems differently, understand things from a different perspective, allow yourself to get beyond your own thinking, allow yourself to get beyond your own perspective. That's really what a psychologist does.
A form of psychotherapy centered on the search for life's
I
meaning.
think I've never been a therapist.
Frankl's experiences in the camps.
I've read enough psychology where that's really the most interesting parts of their ideas is you see this time and time again. Like this is why Plato and Socrates loved philosophy because it could get you beyond your problems. It could get you to rationalize things. It could get you to see beyond the things that you think are detrimental in your life. And through this, you can find meaning. Through this, you can find happiness. Through this, you can find fulfillment. And it's all about reframing things. Like if you really want to understand the greatest philosophies, just understand the idea of reframing our suffering, reframing the things in our life so that they're not as bad as they appear to be.
Where he witnessed both extreme suffering and remarkable resilience, deeply shaped his views on human existence and the pursuit of meaning. Frankl says that in the dire conditions of the concentration camps, they learned and taught others who were losing all hope that it was not what they expected from life that mattered, but what life expected from them. Instead of questioning the meaning of life, we need to see ourselves as being questioned by life, constantly. Our responses require the right action and right conduct, as life ultimately demands that we take responsibility for solving its problems and fulfill its tasks.
We take responsibility for life. So we take responsibility for everything that happens to us because it's part of our destiny. It's part of what we need to do to grow into the person that we need to become. And it's a very interesting idea because when you take this idea, then you have something to run with. Then you have something to be inspired by. Then there's something that you can cling on to. Like this is very similar to Nietzsche's idea of amor fati, love your fate, love everything that happens to you. And if you can do this, then you can find meaning and solace in the most horrific of things.
These tasks, and therefore the meaning of life, vary from person to person and moment to moment, making it impossible to define a universal meaning or compare one's life and struggles with someone else's. Life's meaning is real and concrete, shaped by our unique destinies and the distinct situations we face. Each situation calls for a specific response, whether through action, contemplation, or acceptance of fate. When confronted with suffering, a person must accept it as their unique task and bear it with dignity, as no one else can suffer in their
Bear
place.
your cross. What did Jesus do? He took the pain and the suffering that was put onto him, he transformed it into something better. This is really the basis of alchemy. This is really what alchemy is talking about. It's taking everything in your life and using that as your inspiration. Taking everything that's happened to you, every experience you have, and purify that into something better. This is what Buddha defined as karma. Buddha didn't really define karma as anything beyond your actions ring into eternity. Your actions are not just your actions, they affect the next person, and then the next person, and then the next person. And it's an endless cycle of pain. It's an endless cycle of all of this harm that was caused by one misdeed, by one bad action. And the truth is, bad action does not end until you end it. Evil does not end until you take the evil and you turn it into something inspirational. And this is what Viktor Frankl does in his, I guess it would be his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. It's he takes the horrific experience that he had during the war, during World War II, and he turns it into something inspirational. He turns it into something that millions and millions of people have read and have been inspired by and have put their lives into perspective versus his horrific experience. And for that, it's truly astounding. It's truly inspirational. It's truly something that we can all look to and say, however bad I think I have it, there's always worse. However bad I think I have it, there was someone that got through much more with much less, and who am I to complain? What's up, Environment? How's everything?
Frankl states that for them as prisoners, these thoughts were not abstract speculations, but vital truths that sustained them and kept despair at bay, even when survival seemed impossible. They moved beyond the naive query of life's meaning, understanding it through the broader cycles of life and death, suffering and dying. By recognizing the meaning of their suffering, they did not minimize or deny the camp's tortures, nor did they cling to false hope or artificial optimism. Viktor Frankl developed his own school of psychotherapy called logotherapy. Logos is a Greek word which denotes meaning. Logotherapy, or as it has been called by some authors,
Logos also, it's also logic. It's like logic and meaning. It's like the order, the way of things.
the third Viennese school of psychotherapy, focuses on the meaning of human existence as well as on man's search for such a meaning. According to logotherapy, this striving to find a meaning in one's life is the primary motivational force in man. Frankl says life has inherent meaning under all circumstances, even the most miserable ones. He says that a lack of meaning in life,
Even the most miserable circumstances, if we can endure them, then we can become that much stronger. And this is basically what Frankl is talking about. This is basically what he's saying. It's like whatever happens to you, you can turn that into something good. Every experience you have makes the little things mean that much more. So like, you know, to most people, like sleeping in an extra 5 minutes is not a big deal, but to Viktor Frankl, while he's in the camps, he is extremely happy because that's a luxury that he doesn't normally get. That's something that is not normally graced on him. And it's that idea. It's like the more pain we have, the more opportunity we have for pleasure. As Khalil Gibran said, every sorrow deepens your joy. Every time you experience a negative, you are open to a positive. Everything ebbs and flows in life. Everything gets worse before it gets better. And the fact that something's getting worse, just smile because things are going to get better in the exact equal proportion.
life can lead to existential frustration and a profound sense of emptiness, which he terms the existential vacuum. This condition is characterized by feelings of boredom, apathy, and a lack of direction. Without a sense of meaning, individuals may experience a deep
So this is the state of mind for I think a lot of people today. Since they're not faced with like an existential crisis, since they're not faced with an existential threat, since there's nothing really banging down their door, they get bored, and this boredom makes them think about why they don't have meaning, why they don't have purpose. And the answer really is that they're not challenging themselves. The answer really is that they haven't gone out into the world and found it for themselves. Like this is what Jen Paul Sater said. I think that's how you say it. And basically, Sater's greatest idea in my mind is that you have the ultimate responsibility. And many people avoid this responsibility by coping. Many people avoid this responsibility by hiding away. But what it means to be alive, what it means to be a human being is that you have the ability to choose. You always have the ability to in some way affect your circumstances. Even if you only have a really bad choice and an awful choice, you can still make the really bad choice. That's the best choice in the circumstance. And it's like once we start accepting this idea, then we start accepting that we have a hand and a role in who we are and who we become. And it's a daunting thing to understand. It's a daunting realization to stumble upon because if you're not where you want to be, it's very easy to point the finger at someone else. It's very easy to say, woe is me. It's very easy to blame the world, to blame your lot in life, to blame everything except the decisions you made to get you where you are.
disconnection and alienation, often leading to psychological issues such as depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. Frankl argues that this existential vacuum results from the erosion of traditional values and the rapid pace of modern life, which often leave individuals without a clear framework for understanding their purpose. In the absence of meaning, people might seek fulfillment through materialism, hedonism, or conformity, but these pursuits frequently fail to provide lasting satisfaction. To overcome the existential vacuum, Frankl emphasizes the importance of finding personal meaning, and he outlines three main avenues.
A lot of times people try to suffice what they're lacking in their soul with something in this world. We avoid the truth that everything material comes to an end. Yes, yes. That was literally the point I was about to make. Come on, asshole. But basically, what I was about to say is that a lot of people try to hide from the real issues. A lot of people try to avoid the root cause. Like, think about it as you're treating an illness. If you keep treating the symptoms and you don't get to the root problem, then it's just going to come back. Can you ever pull out a weed and you just ripped out the top and then a week later it's there again? That's what we're all doing with our problems. And the problems really come from a lack of purpose, a lack of meaning, a lack of a deeper sense of something greater. And it might work for a short time to hide through substances, to hide through activities that we know aren't good for us, but eventually it will catch up, and eventually our trying to fill the hole will make things worse.
Through which people can find meaning, which are still relevant today. Number one, through work or accomplishments. Engaging in meaningful work or creating something of value provides a deep sense of
Meaningful work in the sense that you enjoy it. You see the novelty in it. You see that you're actively helping people. I think the problem with the modern workforce is that a lot of our jobs we don't particularly enjoy and we don't particularly like. And it's really sad because I feel like it takes all of the purpose out of work. Like, imagine back in the day, like when there weren't that many jobs and you could be a farmer and take care of your family, or you were a cobbler and you made shoes for everybody, or you were a cooper and you made barrels for like you know what I mean? Like the effect you have on the community, the effect you have on the world is tangible. And even though it's not a great effect, even though you're not out there like changing the world, like you're making a difference in your community. You're doing things that make you happy and you're doing things that make you other people happy. And it's very weird that we don't pursue things that give us this sense of feeling, that give us this sense of purpose, that fill us with anything except a bigger bank account. Modern wage slaves, yeah, yeah. And I'm not against like working, I'm not against working for corporations, but what I'm against is doing things that you are against deep in your heart. Like if you love your job, I'm not going to tell you to quit. But like if you don't like your job, I'm going to tell you like find something that's worth doing. Don't quit right away, but like if you find an opportunity, if you find a field, if you find an avenue similar to what you're currently doing and it's a pay cut, but it's going to make you a lot happier, you might as well do that. You might as well chase that because in the end, what is a little bit less money if you have all the world of happiness? And I think these are questions and I think these are things that we need to start thinking about as a society more and more because I feel like we're going down the materialistic path. We're chasing all these material things and yet we've never been so unhappy. We have the greatest spending capacity in the world. We're richer as a nation than we've ever been. Yet people have never been more unhappy because they're chasing the wrong things. There's no depth to the things that we're seeking out. And because of this, there's an utter lack of meaning, an utter lack of purpose.
purpose. This does not necessarily mean high profile achievements, but includes any task that one invests in sincerely and passionately. Whether it is a professional career, artistic creation, or volunteer work, engaging in tasks that resonate with personal values and contribute to the well-being of others can provide a profound sense of purpose. Number two, through experiences and relationships. Experiences and relationships play a crucial role in finding meaning.
Think of how much we sacrifice in terms of relationships for the sake of the dollar, for the sake of moving up the corporate ladder, for the sake of all of these material things. Like, how many soccer practices, how many graduations, how many experiences do you miss out on with your kids because of the decisions you make? How many relationships have failed because you've devoted your time and effort to things that in the end really don't matter? And it's really sad to see that we overvalue the things that money can give us and we don't value the things that the soul can give us, the friendships, the relationships, the family, the things that really actually mean anything. Because I tell you what, like no matter how good of an employee you are, no matter how good of a boss you are, those people are not going to be in the hospital room waiting with you while you're drawing your last breath. It's going to be the people that mean the most to you. And, wouldn't you want to spend more time with them? Wouldn't you want to experience more with them? Wouldn't you want to be with them as much as possible? And I think this is another thing because, how many relationships break up because people take their work home with them? How many relationships break up because we are unable to separate the world and our experience with this person? And that's something I really want to emphasize. Like, stop putting your baggage on the other people in your life. Stop putting the things that you are struggling with on other people. Allow the relationship to flourish. Allow the relationship to bloom. Don't pass your suffering on to them. Be a source of joy for the people in your life, and they will be a source of joy for you as well.
Frankl highlights the importance of appreciating beauty, truth, and love. This includes the simple joys of life, such as appreciating nature, engaging in creative activities, and forming deep, meaningful connections with others. Relationships, in particular, are vital for finding meaning. Love and compassion towards others not only enrich our lives, but also provide a sense of belonging and fulfillment. Number 3, through attitude towards suffering. Frankl's most profound insight is perhaps his perspective on suffering. He argues that even in the face of unavoidable suffering, individuals can find meaning by adopting a dignified and courageous attitude. Suffering, when approached with the right mindset, can be a source of growth and strength.
So think about it like this. If you can endure something horrific, that means you're prepared for the rest of life. So when great sadness, when great suffering comes, just understand that when you get on the other end of it, you are that much stronger. You are that much better. You are that much able to handle the greater challenges of life. And, at the very least, you took your punches and you kept going. You didn't give in. You didn't give up. And you can pat yourself on the back for that. That is this idea. This is such an inspiring idea. And I think if people began reframing their idea of failure, their idea of setbacks, their idea of not getting their way, the world would be such a better place because if you stop seeing failure as failure and you started seeing it as a learning lesson, then guess what? You're Thomas Edison. And guess what? The great task in front of you, the thing that you want to do, the dream you have, you will be able to accomplish it because you will fail 10,000 times, just as Edison did. And when you succeed, you'll say the same thing. When Edison succeeded, he said, I didn't find 10,000 ways. I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways not to create a light bulb. And it's that approach to suffering. It's that approach to setbacks. It's seeing the silver lining in everything. It's seeing everything as an opportunity to grow and become stronger. As Nietzsche said, amor fati, love your fate. Love everything that happens to you because it builds you to the person that you need to be to face the challenges of life.
This transformation of personal tragedy into a triumph of the human spirit underscores the resilience and potential for meaning inherent in every individual. He said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Additionally, practicing gratitude and mindfulness by
That's a very important idea. Everything can be taken from you except your attitude. William James, the father of American psychology, said, attitudes are more important than facts. Attitudes are more important than facts. The attitude you choose to take and the attitude you choose to move forward with determines more than anything else. And the greatest example of this is people that will never drink because their parents are alcoholics and people that drink because their parents were alcoholics. It's all about what you do with it. It's all about how you move forward. It's all about how you see things and frame things. And it's so weird that we will allow people to control us. It's so weird that we will hold a grudge. It's so weird that we will linger in these feelings of negative emotion for the sake of lingering in them. Move on, become stronger, become better.
regularly reflecting on what you are grateful for and staying mindful of the present moment can help uncover the inherent value in everyday experiences. These practices foster a sense of appreciation for the present, enhancing overall well-being and satisfaction. Frankl's theories were not developed in the comfort of an academic setting, but were forged in the horrors of the Holocaust. His survival and the psychological insights he gathered from his and his fellow prisoners' experiences are a testament to the human spirit's resilience.
Frankl said something along the lines of But when a man gave up hope, he was as good as dead. And this is talking about the circumstances he was subjected to. This is talking about his time in extreme pain, his time in extreme horrific circumstances. What's up, X before YZ? How's everything, man? Good to see you.
Despite the dehumanizing conditions, Frankl observed that those who found a sense of purpose, whether in dreams of future goals, memories of loved ones, or a commitment to endure suffering with dignity, were more likely to survive. Viktor Frankl's exploration of life's meaning offers timeless wisdom, and I highly recommend his book, Man's Search for Meaning.
It
His
is a
assertion
really
that
good
meaning
book.
can be
If you've never read Man's Search for Meaning, I really urge you to. It's very, very short, and it's one of those books that you'll remember forever. I don't really say that very often. There's very few books that leave a lasting impact. There's very few books that give you such an experience in so few words, but it really does say something about the human spirit. It really does say something about enduring suffering and turning that into something positive. It really does tell you that everything that you do, everything that happens to you does not have to define you, and you are the ultimate teller of your story. You ultimately are the one that can determine what happens to you and determine how you move on from things. I don't know her name. I don't feel like getting
found in
involved in that.
work, relationships, and even suffering provides a powerful guide for those seeking purpose in life. By embracing Frankl's principles, individuals can navigate the complexities of existence with a deeper sense of fulfillment and direction. His insights remind us that, despite life's challenges, the search for meaning is a journey worth undertaking.
Okay, that was a really good video. I can't believe I don't subscribe to this guy. I also have this video pulled up. Um, this is Dostoevsky.
Sponsored by Blinkist, the app that condenses thousands of nonfiction books into 15-minute summaries. Use the link in the description and receive 1 free week and 25% off a premium membership. Fyodor
Okay,
Dostoevsky
there
is
we go.
widely regarded as one of the great
If you haven't read Dostoevsky, you really should. I don't know how to put it aside from he's an absolute madman, but in this madness, he says something. And, to call Dostoevsky a madman is not facetious because this man would literally be roaming around the streets of Russia, chanting and saying and acting out all the dialogue for all of his stories. This is a man that any time he would need to write something, he would immediately gamble all of his money that he had made off of his last books so that he had nothing, so that he would be forced to write. He would light the fire underneath him. He would inspire himself to need to go out there and do something great. And it really shows in his work because they're so him. They're so Dostoevsky. Nothing else compares to Dostoevsky. Nothing else can even come close to the same style of writing.
greatest novelists in history. His fictional work is so rich with deep insights into human psychology, particularly its interplay with various social and political structures of the modern world. He is equal parts renowned psychologist and philosopher. His work brings into question
His characters are perhaps the most psychologically developed characters of anything shy of James Joyce. Those might be the only characters that express more of themselves, but reading Dostoevsky is an experience. It's not just something you do.
how well we truly know ourselves, what we really want, and how we go about considering and attaining these things in the world, as well as the consequences of following false delusions and impossible ideals. His insights and warnings about humanity, both individually and collectively,
So Dostoevsky's main message is that you cannot destroy meaning and find any hope. And basically what this means is that Dostoevsky saw the turning away from the church and thought this was a bad thing. He thought there should be an acceptance of the values and an acceptance and a clinging on to these ideas because through these ideas is hope. Through these ideas is happiness. And I would say I need to read a little bit more of him to be speculating anymore, but this is really the basis of his solution to the world.
were not only ahead of his time, but in many ways, they are still arguably unheeded warnings, immensely relevant to today. Dostoevsky was born in 1821 in Moscow, Russia, to a well-off Orthodox Christian family. His father was a successful doctor, and his family lived on the hospital grounds where his father worked. While in his teens, however, his mother died of tuberculosis, and while Dostoevsky was away at school studying to become an engineer, his father died without definitive cause, although it was reported and speculated that he was murdered by his own son.
So interestingly enough, Dostoevsky was alive during the feudal times in Russia, and this is really what happens at the start of Crime and Punishment, is that feudalism basically gets overturned and there is new hope, there's new circumstances, there is a new um era at hand.
Serfs in an act of vengeance against his abusive tendencies. Young Dostoevsky's proximity to the conditions of a hospital, his upbringing in a strong faith family, and the early deaths of both his parents, especially that of the mysterious possible murder of his father, likely all culminated into some amount of the early foundation of what would go on to become his unique but tragic voice as a writer. After graduating from a military engineering institute, Dostoevsky would work as an engineer. However, as a means of
Dostoevsky's early life tells you a lot about his experience because he's someone that was born on the right side of the fence. He was someone that was born with riches, but he's someone that was sympathetic to the plight of people that weren't given the same blessings.
engaging in his budding passion for literature and humanities, he also began translating books on the side during this time. As this passion for literature soon increased further and further, he would resign from his engineering career and focus solely on writing himself. In 1846, he published his first book, titled Poor Folk. Right away, this work received commercial success and was reviewed favorably by literary critics of the time, deemed as Russia's first social novel. However, Dostoevsky's subsequent works just following this one would struggle to find any similar.
White Nights is such a good book. It's about 70, 80 pages, and if you haven't read it, you really should. It's one of the weirdest love stories you've ever read. It it's really not a love story, but it's I don't know how it does it because you tell me what the plot of the story would be, I'd be like, that's not something I would read. But I really did love it. So very short thing to read by Dostoevsky, and if you've never read anything by him, I think it's a pretty good place to start.
Similar level of success, and he soon found himself mostly just experimenting and failing as a writer, quickly falling into financial distress. Partly as a consequence of his financial situation, in 1847, while in his late 20s, Dostoevsky became associated with a radical group of writers and intellectuals focused on utopian socialism. This, however, would soon lead him to being arrested when the government went after
This story is so crazy.
those associated with these types of groups. In 1849, as punishment, Dostoevsky was sentenced to death by firing squad. On December 22nd of the same year, he stood facing the barrel of a gun pointed at his head. The remainder of his life was now counted in minutes.
So this experience is perhaps why Dostoevsky was such a profound writer. I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but we'll see.
As the officials held their aim and steadied to pull the trigger, suddenly, at the last moment, a message arrived and Dostoevsky was pardoned. The execution would turn out to be a mock execution, used merely as a psychological tactic to instill fear in the prisoners. Following this, Dostoevsky was instead sent to Siberia, where he was forced to work grueling labor and horrible.
In this moment, though, what happened in Dostoevsky was he realized that he would not live forever. He realized that he was mortal. He realized that life could slip through his grasp at any time, and because of this, he had to go full in. He had to really devote himself. He had to really create the works he knew he could. And while at his time in Siberia, he was writing in his own head the novels that he wanted to create. He wasn't allowed to write anything while he was there, so he did it in his own head while he's doing brutal labor.
Conditions for 4 years. In 1860, Dostoevsky returned from Siberia, but returned a very different man. He would soon begin writing again, but now his voice would contain a new tone of pessimism, realism, and a highly perceptive understanding of the human psyche. He was now turned away from utopian ideals of society, and instead, his focus was now turned inward towards spiritual and psychological explorations. Over the following 20 years,
I'm pretty sure Nietzsche said that Dostoevsky is the only psychologist I ever learned anything from, which is
before
quite high
dying of a
praise.
lung disorder in 1881, Dostoevsky would produce several successful masterpieces, many of which are still regarded as some of the most important works of literature to this day, including Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, and The Brothers Karamazov.
Notes from the Underground is a very interesting story, to say the least, but it's only about 120 pages. Crime and Punishment's like 500, 600. The Idiot's similar. Demons is similar. And The Brothers Karamazov is like 800 pages. So if you really want to pick up Dostoevsky, I think probably the best place to start is Notes from the Underground. White Nights is also a very short story. I think he wrote a lot of short stories as well. So if you're not dedicated to such a long book, maybe that's the place to start. But I'm telling you, when you read a Dostoevsky novel, it's unlike anything else. It captures you, it creates an atmosphere, it does what every author wishes to do but can't.
One of the more prominent themes established in much of Dostoevsky's work was his insights on and assessment of human suffering. More particularly, the means by which and the consequences of humanity trying to
That's
overcome and rid
facts.
itself of suffering, especially in relation to a time in which religious and spiritual anchors were cut loose and individuals and societies were left to create and defend their worldviews through an increasing thrust of rationality and
So this is a very similar issue to what Nietzsche was wishing to conquer. Nietzsche's biggest gripe, biggest argument was the destruction of traditional morality and the destruction of traditional ideals without replacing them with anything new. And that's what Nietzsche wishes to find through the Übermensch, through the eternal recurrence, through these ideas. But it's very interesting to see that like the greatest minds of the time all see this growing issue and all come up with different solutions for it.
technology toward the ideal of perfect well-being. In Notes from Underground, published in 1864, Dostoevsky explores and critiques these modern Western ideals, rationality and technological progress, as a means toward perfect happiness and goodness. In the novel, we follow an unnamed retired civil servant, often referred to as the Underground Man, through a series of diary entries. The
It's
man is
so
deeply
funny.
angered and unhappy, and he possesses a disdain for others.
So he's a civil servant and he basically says that anytime he could, he would purposely piss people off. Like anytime he was dealing with someone that had a problem, he would purposely be dumb. He wouldn't give them the right form. He would do all these things just to piss them off. I really think that, the people that work at the DMV have probably read Notes from the Underground, I swear.
And the delusions in which others live. He wants to make other people see the truth and acknowledge the same discontent and absurdity he knows and feels in life. For Dostoevsky, suffering is a fundamental tenet of human life. It is infused in the blood. Thus, there is no life, nor social or material condition for life that can exist without suffering. And so, for Dostoevsky, all efforts and accomplishments of progress, both individually and collectively, can merely change the particular things that we derive our suffering from, but cannot eliminate our suffering comprehensively. Man only likes to count his troubles. He doesn't calculate his.
Okay. This is something I say all the time. We all point to everything going wrong, but how often do we point to things going right? And this is truly the one way to find your happiness. This is truly the one way to smile. Because even if you're Jeff Bezos, even if you're Elon Musk, even if you have more money than anyone else in the world, it does not matter. You'll still have problems, still have things going wrong. Nothing will ever be perfect. Why do you expect that when you get $1 million, you're going to be happy? Why do you expect when you're in a different state, you're going to be happy? You're going to be the same person that struggles. You're going to be the same person that struggles to find happiness in the moment. And the truth is, you can't be happy until you can be happy now. If you can't be happy in this moment, guess what? You're never going to be happy. And I hate to tell you this, but it's a decision. Being happy is a decision. It's allowing yourself to give up. It's allowing yourself to stop trying to control things. It's allowing yourself to take a breath. It's allowing yourself to say, out of all the problems I have, I also have the same amount of things going right. And start naming them. Start listing them. Start showing to yourself that your life is a good one. Because we all have blessings. We all have things. We all have advantages. Every single person in this entire world has one thing that a lot of dead people don't. They have life. Think of how many people that died not having the ability to change. Think of how many people that died without any sort of solace, with regret, with guilt, with all of these things. You have the ability to right the ship, and that's the greatest gift of them all.
His happiness, wrote Dostoevsky. For Dostoevsky, since there can never be a social or material structure that rids humanity of unhappiness or suffering, any objective of improving the world toward an idealistic, utopian version of itself is doomed to fail. Through The Underground Man, Dostoevsky largely critiques and warns about humanity pursuing these sorts of ideals while operating within the increasingly prevalent worldviews of nihilism, utopianism, rationalism, and egoism, which essentially culminate into the beliefs that there is no inherent or transcendent meaning to life and that actions and morality should be based on reason and knowledge, with self-interest as the driving force.
So it's weird to see that Dostoevsky is warning against these things so long ago, and yet they've never been more prevalent. Think of how many nihilists there are. Think of how many people try to rationalize everything. Think about how many people try to explain away everything. Like, I think one of the best examples is Neil deGrasse Tyson, who talks about science as if it's his God. You know what I mean? Like that dude talks about science as if it's the end all be all. He has a reverence for science like a Christian has a reverence for God. And it's so ironic because the same undying belief he has for science, a theist has for God. It's like it's just
Dostoevsky argued, however,
nothing's new
that
under
with a
the sun.
void of religious faith and a deeply flawed, irrational human nature, this worldview would become destructive. In the process of resolving suffering toward perfection, solutions to old problems will inevitably create new problems in need of new solutions. And the more grandiose the solutions, the more complex and perhaps destructive the new problems. This is not necessarily to say that efforts of social, technological, or self-improvement are useless or inherently bad, but rather, they are not capable of attaining what they often set out.
So this is very much what Huxley talks about in Brave New World. Is that the technologies created by society progress us, but they also devolve us. They also take away our agency. They also take away what it means to be human. They take away the activities that give us meaning, that give us purpose, that give ourselves value, and it replaces it with nothing. It replaces it with a machine.
To accomplish, and if not considered within the constraints of the human condition, their incessant motion can serve to only fan the flames of problems. In Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky wrote, "Now I ask you, what can be expected of man since he is a being endowed with strange qualities? Shower upon him every earthly blessing, drown him in a sea of happiness, so that nothing but bubbles of bliss can be seen on the surface. Give him economic prosperity, such that he should have nothing else to do but sleep, eat cakes, and busy himself with the continuation of his species. And even then, out of sheer ingratitude, sheer spite, man would play you some nasty trick."
This is one of the deepest realizations you'll have. If you had everything and you were the same person today, you would find a way to make yourself unhappy. You would find a way to become bored. You would find a way to destroy the meaning you have. And it's all about the ability to be happy today. It's all about the ability to see your blessings today. It's getting over yourself. It's getting over this need to become something great. You already are something great. That's what Dostoevsky's saying. It's like the people that have the most in the world want more than anything else. Like I bet you a poor person does not want as much money as Elon Musk does. I bet you if there was a genie here and they asked how much money do you want, Elon would say $1 trillion. I bet you a poor person would probably say a million, maybe a billion. But it's like the way we value things is directly correlated to what we already have. And it's so weird that people don't understand that if they had everything, they would still be unhappy. If you were given everything you wanted today, you would find a way to be unhappy tomorrow. And that's the simple reality of the world.
He would even risk his cakes and would deliberately desire the most fatal rubbish, the most uneconomical absurdity, simply to introduce into all this positive good sense his fatal fantastic element. It is just his fantastic dreams, his vulgar folly, that he will desire to retain, simply in order to prove to himself, as though that were so necessary, that men still are men, and not the keys of a piano. For Dostoevsky, humanity is irrational and incessantly desires a sense of self-agency, not perfect happiness. Thus, even if a perfect life or society in which happiness could be of a formulaic ease to everyone, humanity would rather go mad or destroy its perfect conditions than live as if it fit into a mechanical system. We think we want happiness, but we don't. Not really. We know this every time we could be happy but aren't, every time we find something to dwell on or complain about or
We want struggle. We want meaning. We want fulfillment. These aren't things that are directly correlated with success. Because think about it this way: if you go to the top of a mountain using a helicopter, yeah, it'll be cool. But what will be much cooler is if you actually walk up to the top of the mountain yourself. If you struggle, if you fall, if you bleed a little, if you sweat a little, if you struggle a little, it's going to mean so much more when you finally get to the end of that hike. And this is this idea. It's like we all have to go through the hero's journey. I was literally talking about this earlier today. The hero's journey is the only path to meaning, is the only path to purpose. If we don't struggle, we don't accept it. If you win the lottery today, I promise you, there's a lot of people that would spend stupidly and be in the exact same position as they were. There's a lot of people that would not use that money for good. There's a lot of people that would still find problems. It's such a weird concept, but the more we understand it and the more we accept it, is the more we can actively change our lives today, actively change our goals today. I'm not saying it's not good to aspire to greatness. It's not good to aspire to greater things, but put things in perspective. Understand that what you want is not the end. You want the journey. You want the experience. The experience means more than
Sabotage.
anything
Our
else.
conscious mind appears to tell us that we want happiness and peace with perfect equality, but our whole being, our behaviors, our history show us that we, quite often, want the opposite. We don't know ourselves as well as we think, and often when we do, we struggle to accept the truth. In Dostoevsky's subsequent masterpiece, Crime and Punishment, published in 1866, he further explores this notion of self-knowledge, or the lack
This is a really
thereof.
good book.
The novel centers around a young
Crime
former
and
law
Punishment
student
was
living in
the
poverty named Rodion Raskolnikov.
first book I read by him.
Raskolnikov's mother and sister are sacrificing a great deal to try and help Raskolnikov's situation and facilitate his success, his sister even setting up to marry a wealthy man in order to help. This, however, all further upsets and shames Raskolnikov.
Raskolnikov's like a man that's like consumed by pride. He's like a man that's like too smart for his own good. Like he is one of those people that would be bored to hell if he got a normal job and would not fit in. But yet he doesn't have the skills to be the boss. He doesn't have the skills to be a manager. And he's almost he's almost like the quintessential example of failure to launch, of someone that has the potential yet is unwilling to apply it, has the capability but is unwilling to put in the work.
Additionally, he is deeply affected by a nihilistic, rationalistic, and atheistic view of the world. Because of his views, without needing to answer to any religious or spiritual principles, Raskolnikov decides to kill and rob a wicked, abusive old pawnbroker.
Basically, he makes this decision and he rationalizes it because this woman is kind of like scummy. She kind of like takes advantage of people. I mean, she's a pawnbroker. Like it's usually not a very honorable profession. Um, and she gets rich at the expense of the poor. And this is his ultimate justification. He thinks that he's actually doing a good thing. He thinks that he's actually, for lack of better words, redistributing the wealth.
Woman whom he has become aware has a lot of cash. He believes that moral decisions ought to be based on what one can determine, through reason, produces the highest net good on society, or the greatest happiness for the largest number of people. Because of this, he believes that he deserves the money more than the old woman, as he can do far more good with it. He can help his sister and mother, and he can become a lawyer, and can then go on to do even more good in the world. Moreover, he thinks of himself as an individual of greatness, powerfulness, and ruthlessness, and in his mind, extraordinary men are allowed to commit crimes for the common good. And so, he is able to
He like it's so funny that he thinks these things and these are his justifications because he lives in like a small little attic and he literally has nothing to his name, but yet he has such great delusions of grandeur.
rationally justify murder, and he proceeds to kill the pawnbroker, and then her half-sister, when she walks in during the act. Throughout the rest of the novel, Raskolnikov finds himself tormented and riddled with guilt and horror because of his actions. He is not who he thought he was. He is not a man of ruthless power. He is a tender and feeling man.
He like hides away the money and never even uses it too.
Eventually, he turns himself into the police in order to essentially avoid going insane. Through Raskolnikov's guilt and torment, Dostoevsky critiques the notion of reason and self-interest as complete methods of determining morality and selfhood. Raskolnikov had every reason to do what he did, and yet what he did was wrong, and it causes him to feel immense pain and suffering. Like in Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky is again critiquing the views of nihilism, utilitarianism, rationalism, and egoism, in which all faith and relevance is placed solely on the individual, and all efforts to maximize a life and society are done through.
So I think the utilitarian example in this story is very profound because I feel like we live in a world where more and more people are justifying utilitarianism. I think this is something that we should be very adamant against. I think utilitarianism is one of the most wicked philosophies because it's basically we have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You have to do some bad to create some good. And I don't think these are ever moral judgments that we should make. I don't think these are ever moral judgments that are in our hands. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we should resort to drastic action unless it's our last resort. I don't think you should defend yourself unless the threat is imminent. It's that idea. And this is basically what Dostoevsky is caricaturing in Crime and Punishment. He's basically stating that like there's going to be a day and age where this is not just an isolated incident. There's going to be a day and age where this is the common thought of common people. And when you fill a society with people that do not have a deeper sense of relationship with their community, they don't have a deeper sense of duty to the people around them, how could we ever live in a just world? How could we ever live in a good society? And this is really his staunchest criticism of the growing philosophies and the upcoming authoritarian governments that will be seen later after Dostoevsky's death.
Self-interest and rationality. Also, like in Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment focuses on the complexity of the human mind and how we, as the conscious observers and orators of who we think we are often detached from and inconsistent with who we really are. Moreover, our perception of who others are is often even further removed from the truth. Dostoevsky not only shows how Raskolnikov has a completely inverted, false self-perception, but he also allows the reader to relate to and empathize with Raskolnikov, a cold-blooded murderer. Rather than purely showing how a bad character becomes bad, Dostoevsky shows how a bad character isn't purely bad, and is, in many ways, a lot like us, extremely confused and misguided by the conflict of their inner psyche and their misunderstanding of said psyche. For us all, the complex interplay between our conscious.
Interestingly enough, Dostoevsky ends Crime and Punishment on a very positive note. And it's basically his summation of how the world can be healed, how the world can be saved. I'm not going to spoil it because it's a very good ending. It's a very strong ending, and I want you to read the book yourself because it is a classic. The great part about reading classics is that you can kind of get an introspection onto the time that it was written. Like, perhaps the greatest reason to read The Great Gatsby is you have a summation of the Roaring Twenties. You read The Catcher in the Rye, you read the angst during the wars. I think it was, when was it written? Was it Korea? Was it World War II? But basically, you get to see a man growing up with a lack of purpose, a man growing up with a lack of a rite of passage and not being able to fit in and not understanding why conventions don't make so much sense and having to be forced to accept these ideas. That's literally the purpose of The Catcher in the Rye. But
Conscious mind, unconscious mind, and the world outside of ourselves is chaotic, muddled, contradictory, and perhaps impossible to ever truly understand. None of us are that far from those we fear or dislike. In them is some amount of us, and in us is some amount of them.
Schopenhauer said every bit of compassion derives from the recognition that this art thou. That if you were in the exact same shoes as the person that you are demonizing, you would make the exact same decisions. And the recognition of this idea is the recognition that you must give them compassion. You must cut them some slack. Their individual experiences led them to where they are, and you would have done the exact same thing. And I think this is such an uplifting idea. I think this is such an inspirational idea. And the more we begin to embrace these concepts, the more we can start to reach the hand across the aisle. Understand that our enemies, our opponents, the people that we think are on the opposite side probably want the same thing, probably want a better world for everyone, probably want the world to be a better place. They just go about it differently. That's not wrong. We should understand our similarities before we point out our differences. Let he who hath no sin cast the first stone. How dare you judge others before you judge yourself?
We don't know ourselves as well as we think. We chase things that we don't want, and we often dread what we truly want. We are far less rational than we think. We exhibit a sort of madness every day in every generation. Christianity and idealistic philosophy set us up to fail. Science cannot save us, and technology is not a means to escape our problems, but merely an efficient transformation of them. Dostoevsky believed all this to be the case, and arguably, on at least some level, he was right. However, at the end of Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov is in prison, serving just an 8-year
Never mind, he spoils the ending.
sentence for doing good deeds. The novel ends alluding to the prospect that Raskolnikov's story will continue, suggesting Dostoevsky's belief that through suffering, faith, acceptance, compassion, and repentance, redemption is still
Okay, so it doesn't tell you why Raskolnikov was redeemed. It's because one, he finds Christ, and two, he's inspired through the woman that he meets after I think it's after he commits the crimes, but basically this woman takes him off of the brink. This woman gives him something to look forward to. This woman inspires him to be better. This woman inspires him to not be so malevolent.
possible. Although Dostoevsky's work is largely dark and tragic, it also contains a sort of epilogue of redemption in spite of itself, at least redemption of a
This
sort.
this one's
In his
not
novel,
tragic.
The Idiot,
Some of his stories are tragic, some of them aren't.
published in
It's a very wide
1869,
range.
through the main character, Prince Mishkin, Dostoevsky reflects on some of his own personal experiences and ideals in life. In one instance, Prince
The title is very funny. I haven't read this book, but where is it? I have it somewhere. I have it somewhere around me. I don't know where it is exactly, but basically the title is, I don't know if it's a good translation, but it basically means naive. Like the idiot is he's just gets himself into a situation he has no right to be in, and he does it because he's so naive. He does it because he doesn't understand the weight of the circumstances he's getting involved with.
Mishkin discusses an anecdote about a man recounting having been arrested and sentenced to a mock execution by firing squad, mirroring almost exactly Dostoevsky's own experience many years prior. Prince Mishkin says, he had about 5 minutes left to live, not more. He said those 5 minutes seemed like an endless time to him, an enormous wealth. He reckoned up the time for bidding his comrades farewell and allotted 2 minutes to that, then allotted 2 more minutes to thinking about himself for the last time, and then to looking around for the last time. He was dying at the age of 27, healthy and strong. Bidding farewell to his comrades, he remembered asking one of them a rather irrelevant question and even being very interested in the answer. Then, after he had bidden his comrades farewell, the 2 minutes came that he had allotted to thinking about himself. He knew
I don't think yeah, I've never read this. I don't know anything about this story, so
beforehand what he was going to think
I hope
about.
it doesn't
He kept
spoil
wanting
it.
to picture to himself, as quickly and vividly as possible, how it could be like this. Now he exists and lives, and in 3 minutes, there would be something, some person or thing, but who and where? He wanted to resolve it all in those 2 minutes. There was a church nearby, and the top of the cathedral with its gilded
If this doesn't inspire you to read Dostoevsky, I don't know what will. This is very
dome
interesting.
shone in the bright sun. He remembered gazing with terrible fixity at that dome and the rays shining from it. It seemed to him that those were his new nature, and in 3 minutes he would somehow merge with them. The ignorance of and loathing for this new thing that would be and would come presently were terrible. Yet he said that nothing was more oppressive for him at that moment than the constant thought, what if I were not to die? What if life were given back to me? What infinity, and it would all be mine. Then I'd turn each minute into a whole age. I'd lose nothing. I'd reckon up every minute separately. I'd let nothing be wasted. He said that in the end this thought turned into such anger in him that he wished they would hurry up and shoot him.
So this is almost Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence, but in a more material sense. What would you do? Like how would you look at your life if there was an imminent threat and you thought it could be taken from you? Now, I'm sure you would take it a lot more seriously. I'm sure you would make decisions in a different manner. I'm sure you would stop living in fear. I'm sure you would stop limiting yourself. Dostoevsky has a tremendous quote, and it's something along the lines of, "Your greatest sin is that you lost yourself for nothing." Hold on, let me get it.
In this, Dostoevsky arguably alludes to the idea that although life is so often tragic, purity and perfect goodness is impossible and suffering is fundamental. The conscious awareness of being but moments away from losing it all is so overwhelmingly horrible that one would literally rather hurry up and die than steep in the knowledge of just
Your worst sin is that you have destroyed and betrayed yourself for nothing. That doesn't give you chills. I don't know what is. And this is the idea that we give up aspects of ourselves, we sacrifice who we are in order to be liked by others, in order to be part of the group, in order to fit in order to do everything except be ourselves. And this is ultimately the worst thing you can do in your life because what is a great life if you don't have yourself? What is material success if you don't know who you are? What do any of these things mean if you don't even know what makes you happy? It's a very interesting idea, and this is something you see in all of the greatest philosophers. This is the ultimate realization, is that nothing else matters except yourself. Nothing else matters except being authentic. In fact, it's the greatest thing you can do. The greatest thing you can do for yourself and the world is to be yourself. Because let's face it, whatever job it is that you do, someone else can probably do it. And they might be able to do it better. The only thing in this world that you can do that no one else can do is be yourself. The only thing that you can do is be exactly who you were meant to be because no one has the combination of your experiences and your DNA. That will never be replicated again. And thus, you have the duty to live up to whatever it is that you've been given, whatever it is that you are capable of, because only you can give your unique gift to the world. And when you see things this way, then you see the words of Emerson ring true. Then you see Dostoevsky's ultimate conclusion. Then you see what Nietzsche was talking about when he was talking about the Ubermensch. And you see what Neville Goddard was inspiring people to do. Often is to impress those we don't even know. Yes, yes. Think of how many times, like, I don't do this anymore, but when I was in high school, like, I would try to, like, impress people that didn't even like me and I didn't even like them. And looking back, I'm like, how much better could my life be if I never made those decisions? How much better could my life be if I never lived in fear, if I always showed my more creative sides, if I wasn't afraid to be called weird? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very fucking weird person. I love reading philosophy. I love reading occult religious stuff. I love reading random stuff that just like, for whatever reason, I'm pulled to. Who else does that? Who else is weird like that? Who else is inspired by these ideas? Who has more fun reading Schopenhauer than watching TV? I'm so weird. And it's like, I love that aspect of myself because it's that curiosity for these things that inspire me to have greater thoughts. It's the thing that gets me up out of bed. It's the thing that drives me to make these videos, that drives me to stream. It's so fun. I don't care about anything else because I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. I love this aspect of myself. But for most of my life, I wasn't allowing this side of myself to be shown. For most of my life, I was trying to pretend to be someone else. I was trying to show the world a different representation. I was showing the world a lesser version of myself for no reason at all. You don't have TV? Bro, I wish. That's that's probably like the best way to live, honestly.
Just how beautiful everything truly is, and that they are just about to lose it all forever. Whether we agree with Dostoevsky or not, his deep insights and brilliant works of literature can help remind us and allow us to feel the same beauty and depth in life while there's still time. This video was sponsored
All
by
right, let's watch the
Blinkist.
whole ad. Right? Should we watch the whole ad? Um, yeah, I thought this was a pretty fun stream. But damn, how did we go from Viktor Frankl to Dostoevsky? The overall takeaway from today is how we choose to view the world affects so much more than we can understand. And the moment we try to create something, the moment we try to destroy everything about what it means to be a human being and replace it with rationality is the moment we lose our soul, the moment we lose any sort of humanity. And this is what you see in Dostoevsky, this is what you see through Frankl. And overall, like, let's end on the quote that man is what he can endure. Whatever it is that you can face is what defines you. And whatever it is that you can move forward from, you'll become that much stronger. And now you can inspire the rest of the world as Viktor Frankl did. With that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.